What's up, Kansas City? I'm Aaron Deacon with KC Digital Drive, and I've got Eze Redwood, who's a Google Digital Inclusion Fellow, here with us today. And we're ready to talk about technology in Kansas City. How you doing, Eze?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Doing very well, thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Fantastic.
So you've been a player in the tech scene in Kansas City for a long time, and a pretty deep-seated member of the community. And I want to talk about the digital inclusion work that you're doing now, but can you start by giving a little bit of your background and sort of how you've gotten into the technology community here?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was in the corporate world for a while, and my brother and I kind of jumped off of the ship, and we started a wings cafe, gourmet wings restaurant.
Highly techy.
Yeah, highly techy. Yeah. But throughout that process, we had a lot of time to reflect as things weren't going right, and we were our launch was delayed, and so that allowed me about a year or so to get into the technology sphere within Kansas City, and there are a lot of great initiatives going on at the time. So it was great in that it afforded me the opportunity to really become a part of the Kansas City Startup Village and the efforts that were going on to kind of build up technology in Kansas City as a community in and around Google Fiber's announcement, as well as start my own tech startup, which was called Prodigy Arcade, which was a video game to teach programming.
And Prodigy Arcade, that came out of a startup weekend, right?
Yes, it did.
Can you talk a little bit about what Startup Weekend is? We have people watching that aren't familiar with that program.
Yeah, absolutely. So Startup Weekend is an opportunity for people who are curious about what it's like to be in the startup or really want to solve a problem. To get together, it takes people from all walks of profession, so programmers, designers, business people, community builders, puts them together, and then as you hear the solutions to problems that people have, you get to choose which team you want to be on and work over the weekend, over that 48, 72-hour period to really create a solution, a business and the actual solution around that problem. So it's really a great experience. A lot of the leaders now and within the startup community have come from Startup Weekends. That was their initiation.
That's cool. So where's Prodigy Arcade now?
We learned a lot of hard lessons. One of which is that you really have to have a team that gels, regardless of how accomplished they are and how amazing they are within their own rights. They still have to get along, right? And so that is a painful lesson when when you've shown some results that everyone lauds as being the solution or being at least amazing solution to the problem, but you can't outrun some of those team dynamics sometimes.
Sure. So what was your corporate job before you started Wings? What were you doing? Like, was it a tech related that kind of prepare you for this?
So yes and no. So originally I was in Central Europe doing youth leadership development.
Oh, wow.
And before that, I was a chairman of a internal think tank at a local investment bank. So multinational investment bank, huge. I led a team that we really worked to solve a lot of the big problems within the organization, some of which were related to, say, the trading platform and making that more efficient, or the user interface for employees entering trades so that they were able to trade faster, so that things were smoother, so that there are fewer errors, things like that. So a lot of our work really wasn't purely tech, but it worked hand in hand with a lot of the programmers and developed the platforms out around the technology improvements.
Well, it sounds like you were really in the innovation space internally. You were working on new processes, new ideas. Some of that might be new technology, but this idea of how you come up with new ways of doing things was pretty central to what your experience was. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so then you could apply it to a restaurant, you can apply it to a startup. And was there another startup that you were working on?
So I was a director of strategy at UHoops. UHoops is still going, still going strong. The guys, I believe, are overseas right now with some teams working on some of the physical side of placing athletes with international teams. So yeah, so it was a great experience. You get to see how sometimes things are different, but they're the same.
So when you say placing athletes with international teams, you mean like basketball players who aren't NBA players? Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So a lot of people don't realize, but there's really only about 60 players every year that make it into the NBA and stay. All right, and so there's 500 at the initial draft camp, which means there's 500 players at least who are great enough to play in the NBA, and there's many, many more who are good enough to be in those 500 spots but don't make it. And so it's kind of the attacking the issue of what happens to those players who are good enough to play in the NBA but don't, for one reason or another, make it in to a team. And so we would take those athletes and provide opportunities for them to display their skills in front of teams like Mexico, playing against Spain, playing against the Philippines, and really providing those opportunities for visibility for players. And so when I came on, we looked at that model and how we can make it broader, and how can we serve a larger demographic. And so we looked at digitizing it and making a platform that tracks, some analytics that aren't trackable right now, and that really acts as a network to connect those players with both each other and the knowledge and resources that they don't know right now.
So we talked a little bit about your professional background. I mean, in addition to that, you mentioned the startup village that you got involved with, and then you also had a 2030 CEO. You want to talk a little bit about your community sort of building activities, because that seems to be the place that stuff rests.
Yeah, absolutely. So for 2030 CEO, one of the things we noticed as we were kind of in that space and building is that at the time there wasn't a really strong entrepreneur community. So there were lots of pockets, lots of people doing things, but for the average person who wasn't necessarily connected, there wasn't that opportunity to really plug into a single source and get knowledge, resources, and learning. To get that knowledge, resources, and learning was really hard to do. And so what we wanted to do is create a group that brought all of that together and brought in people with expertise that they wouldn't necessarily have access to or think about even engaging before, and really creating a sense of community around entrepreneurship. And so it's worked out really well. We've had some great success stories with 2030 CEO, and it's been a really great experience.
If somebody's watching and they want to get involved, is this an easy thing? Like, it's open to people? Like, are there ways for people to participate in this stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. You can go to 2030ceo.com, and 20 spelled out, so TWENTY, the number 30, and then CEO.com.
All right, so let's shift gears now to digital inclusion and your fellowship. Tell me a little bit how you started doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. Previous to getting the fellowship, I was working on innovation policy around digital inclusion within the city. And so one of the things we were looking at is how can we evolve the city policies to better fund and better enable digital inclusion efforts. And so we were looking at a number of innovative ways to go about that within the city, and it seemed to be a natural extension for us to, or I guess for myself, to look at how can I as an individual continue this work. And I really saw that there was a large digital divide that was growing. And that was kind of the next frontier of innovation, the next frontier of progress within the city. And so it made sense to level the playing field here, because I felt like if we could level that playing field in and around technology, then we would give a second start for many people who've been disenfranchised and underserved in communities in Kansas City prior to now.
Now, when you say you were working on this already with the city, and that's not part of your wings business. So how was this just something that you wanted to do, or are was there a mechanism within the city that you were addressing this with?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was on the Mayor's Challenge Cabinet.
Okay.
And at first I was working with...
Maybe you can say a little bit about what the Mayor's Challenge Cabinet is.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Mayor's Challenge Cabinet is a group of creative thinkers within the city who are brought together to solve a lot of the big problems within the city. So Originally, we were looking at entrepreneurship and economic development, and we decided eventually that we needed to hone in a little bit more on something specific that could really impact in a very tangible way. And so, we ended up in the second year changing that around to be more focused on innovation policy. So how can we adjust the policies within the city to make the city friendlier to economic development, as well as to bridging the digital divide.
So then Google put out this call for digital inclusion fellows in Kansas City, along with the Nonprofit Technology Network. And you were selected as one of these, along with a woman named Leslie Scott. And so you've been doing this for, what, a month maybe now, officially?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
And what's your job in that role? I mean, you're at Literacy Kansas City.
Yes.
Right?
So I wear a few different hats there, which is, it's nice because I have one of the things that I guess no one's going to give Google credit for, or give the Nonprofit Technology Network credit for, is giving the fellows the flexibility to create their own solutions to the digital divide. So their take, instead of a top-down, we know best approach, was to find 16 of the rising leaders in the U.S., and say, hey, your communities best. You have the connections to other people who know the community even better. Why don't we enable you to reach out and create these mechanisms, create these systems, these programs for solving this problem. And so I've had a lot of freedom in how I go about that, and who I work with, and what kind of initiatives we develop. And it's been great, especially working with Literacy KC, because they're in the same space, and as they move into digital literacy, they're pioneering a lot of new techniques. So they're bringing in, for example, the career online high school to give people who may not have completed high school an opportunity with certifications and different career paths, to give them finite skills in those career paths, and giving them certifications with accredited high schools. So
very cool.
Literacy KC has done some amazing things, and it's been great to work through.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Mm-hmm. So did you go out to the Googleplex or anything?
I did.
Did you?
Yes.
How was that?
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's as good as you would think it would be. That's the easy way to say it. So we have slides there. From the second floor to the first floors, we have free coffee shops. We have free food, so I gained a few pounds, which hopefully the camera will not further add to. But no, it was amazing, and getting to know the Google Fiber staff, and they've added some amazing community builders, which no one would see kind of on the other side of it, but those community builders have really created a great culture within Google Fiber to be centered around communities and bridging the digital divide, and making it a very holistic approach to how do we roll out a technology.
Cool. Anything else that you want to tell people who might be watching about how to get involved with all the different efforts that you're working on?
Yeah, absolutely. So a great way is to engage Literacy KC. And Literacy KC is doing both digital literacy as well as actual literacy centered around reading. And so engaging Literacy KC, and I'm reachable through there, as well as 2030 CEO. And if you're in the mood for wings, Wings Cafe. And so a great way to reach Literacy KC is by calling the office. You can find them both in the phone book and online, as well as for Wings Cafe, it's just wingscafe.com.
Very good. All right. Thanks so much, Eze. Appreciate you coming on. This has been our first tech show, so thanks for watching. I'd like to say thanks for our sponsors for helping make this possible, and you can check out more videos at whatsupkansascity.net. I'm Aaron Deacon with KC Digital Drive. Thanks for watching.
I'm IFBB Bikini Pro Kat Williams, and when I'm not working out in the gym, I'm searching the web on Cascade Media and What's Up Kansas City. So make sure you check them out.